Here we go. This is my kind of chapter. This right here. Not only did it have what a really sick dragon in it, looking sick with his T-Rex like dragon head, but it also had set up some stuff that I'm very curious about just from this dude Edlin, because there's a part where he's talking about like his destiny, and obviously if there's this ancient dragon that I know they says tamed, but I feel like this dragon, unless it's really weak, then I don't really know like how Edlin would really have control over it, unless it's something very specific when he says his destiny. If it's something kind of like how Percival and the other, four knights of the apocalypse have like a kind of like born power. You know how it is kind of like the same thing as like, oh, you're destined to be X character. Like maybe this guy's thing is he's destined to be able to control this dragon or have some power over like the dragons of the Seven Deadly Sins world. Because as far as I can remember, the dragons in their series aren't like, they're not like intelligence, like look at like some like fairy tale dragons. They're more of like large, powerful monsters kind of dragon. They're like more in like Monster Hunter and stuff. But if this guy has some form of power to control it, it makes me wonder if there's going to be other characters like that. Like how you had the whole, pretty much for the like the first chunk of Seven Deadly Sins, you had the members of the Holy Knights for the most part were the bad guys, and everything like in the variables over there, like this everything with Hendrickson and like the demons and stuff. Then you had the Ten Commandments, and then more members of the Demon Clan and whatnot. But like, what if outside of like some of these set characters that are in Arthur's court, you have characters who are like, oh, destined to be born with some power, just kind of like a character of legend. But the Four Knights are just going to be like the top legends. Like you can still have a character be born of some like important destiny and not be the top thing. Like they can still be somewhat powerful, but not be all powerful. Kind of like how you can have like a god who is still like a god character can still be defeated by mortals to like some extra degree, but then you can have like one that's so powerful that it's like, yeah, none of them could ever like be stopped pretty much by like regular mortal means or anything like that. Like there's just a kind of like a gap system, kind of like, you can look at the series, I guess, like it has power levels stuff, so you can kind of just gauge it, kind of like how you have like Holy Knights, and then you have like the lowest rank, top rank. You have the demons, lowest rank, top rank, angels and whatnot. You can have essentially that, but like these kids of prophecy, and there's just their own kind of ranking set to them as well. But this chapter, pretty solid. I actually really liked the general dynamic, and Donnie lore is gonna be really cool. So I like Donnie so far as a character. I think he's been pretty entertaining, but he also holds the potential to be a pretty solid character. Like, there's a couple other series with people like him. Like, for instance, you have, like, Consommé in Zatch Bell. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Kabuto? I think it's Siren, for anybody who's read Siren. Essentially, you have a character who's, like, set up, and you'd think that they're more of, like, a comedic relief. But it's more like they start out just kind of, like, really weak and goofy, and it's, like, way progressed in the series that they can, climb the ladder. Kind of like Usopp, but way more serious, like, a good degree further, because like Usopp has that kind of comedically weak stuff, but he's not like a gag character, whereas I think Donnie is going to be a couple slots over where he actually could end up being pretty powerful if he's got his own thing going on. But we started out the chapter, and Hauser, the thing about Howitzer, because somebody's going to comment that I keep calling him Hauser, the thing about Howitzer is he's like knocked out drunk in this chapter, because like Edlin's like fully aware of like how much alcohol it takes to put him down and take him out of commission, which is smart on Edlin's part. But I will say that it's dumb of Howitzer to go out drinking like this by himself because of literally the situation he's in, getting jumped by a bunch of dudes that he can't defend himself because he's so hammered that he has like no ability to keep fighting. He just passes out like seconds into his declaration of fighting these random fodder bad guys. But like the second he gets sober, he's just gonna break out of that cell. It'd be really weird if he couldn't break iron bars. Cause I don't even really need to say like it'd be weird if he could, because it's like he absolutely should be able to. Even if he didn't get any more powerful from like the end of Seven Deadly Sins to now, he still should have absolutely no problem whatsoever smacking some iron bars or just punching a hole through like the rock on like the other side of the cell. Like no problem getting out of there. Percival should as well, but that's gonna be until they wake up. I know how Howitzer is like still hammered, but I 100% believe that Nastian should be able to create some form of kind of like fast, sobering potion, because he mentions that he can neutralize the alcohol when he drinks it, so he doesn't get drunk. So I would assume he would be able to replicate that into a type of like nulling potion, something that just kind of like targets alcohol specifically in the body and is able to just kind of like quell it down so he can still operate. But Nastian's is pretty cool. He did this like Misty Rain Belladonna, and it put all these dudes to sleep. He doesn't have to just have it on his blades. He can do like an AoE, just general mist of it, and obviously the mist meaning that people aren't going to generally see it. Pretty cool. I thought that was like neat of him. But then Edlin ends up taking Percival hostage and gets the jump on him, and that's how they kind of end up in this general predicament. And that's when we get to the Donnie stuff, like Donnie running away from Howitzer, and then running into this guy. And this is a good example again that Donnie isn't a bad guy, even though he was like doing some bandit stuff. Like he wasn't evil. Like he would be like at best like a petty thief. But he's talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh, I gave up on being a Holy Knight too, and you know you should stay here with us." And what we do is we kind of pose as townspeople, and then we like strip travelers clean of all their goods and gold and whatnot. And Donnie's like, "I'm not doing that. Like that's pretty much like you're an actual like bandit. You're not just like some guy pickpocketing people of like change. You're actually armed. Like that's armed robbery. That's a whole different thing. Like really." It's like the gap you think of in like a movie, how you have like a little kid, again, a pickpocket who's just going around like tries to nab somebody's wallet, versus the guy who holds up somebody at gunpoint and it's just like, give me everything you got or die. Because I would imagine like just Donnie with like the other two characters, I forgot their names, like the big dude and the one girl. I would imagine if they got caught, they're not going to, or not caught, but it's like somebody refuses. I don't imagine they would try and kill them. Whereas like Edlin and his guys definitely would rough up some people just for not complying. But he's talking to him and he's like, "Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I want to do this?" He's like, "Oh, well, guess what? We've taken all your friends, and that means that you're kind of screwed over here." Donnie's just like, "You're not going to do anything about that, and I'm not going to just, I'm not going to take that sitting down." And that's when the dude summons his dragon. And I'm very curious as to the importance of the dragon, because he's saying how like none of the Holy Knights can defeat him with this. I can believe the hype on the dragon being above the general Holy Knights. Like, say, just like how Howitzer level people. I mean, even if it was Hendrickson, I could believe it, because we know that Hendrickson, though he is strong for a human, like, this dragon could easily be ranked above him just without much gap. Like, he could literally just be as powerful as Galen, and it's not that crazy when you think about it, when we really know the kind of, like, ceiling gap between, like, when you really think about, like, someone like Hendrickson or Gilthunder or any of those guys, and then how big of a gap is when you get to Galen, but then, like, in reality, how strong Galen is to, say, like, Meliodas Bond or anybody. Like, they would have no problem probably dealing with this guy, which is kind of the question I have, because what would happen if somebody like Meliodas or them showed up? Because this might actually draw some attention. This isn't like, oh, some random Holy Knight is causing trouble or anything. This is apparently this like really powerful dragon flying around. And I think it's actually no, I don't think it was Meliodas. I was gonna say that Meliodas might be interested, but I think it was Estarossa. At the time, Estarossa, his like favorite food was dragon meat. So I was gonna say like he might just show up and try and eat this thing. I hope not. This dude looks pretty badass. Again, I love the T-Rex like dragon design. It looks really sick. But then we have like this part where he's like, "Oh, you know, quit staring at me. We're in the same boat." And that to me tells me that there is just a general more important plot detail of why he's able to call this dragon. What exactly is it? Is he from some like bloodline? Is it some power he has specifically that lets him communicate with this dragon? It could be a lot of things. I don't think that he's stronger than the dragon, because then he wouldn't even need the dragon. He could just beat people up on himself if he's so powerful that he's tamed this thing. But like I said, I would imagine anybody that is like a boss level character, like any of the Seven Deadly Sins, Zeldris, I don't think Mail's still around, but like anybody like that would have no problem. I would like just botting this thing. I would be really surprised if this dragon was a threat to any of them whatsoever, any of those bigger characters, because then it'd be like, well, how is anybody in the cast going to beat them? So I can see it being above Holy Knights, like the general Holy Knights, again, even like Gilthunder or Hendrickson or any of them, but it wouldn't make anything too crazy, because you know there's still people that could run through this guy if they like showed up. And it would be a really cool actually introduction to bring Meliodas into the scene, considering his whole thing, he's the Dragon Son of Wrath. If he showed up and fought this dragon, I don't want to say like he showed up and like just slayed the dragon, because like I don't want this dragon to get killed. This is definitely the coolest looking dragon that Nakaba has drawn. I remember those tyrant dragons, like they were neat, but they didn't look nearly as badass. So we'll see how this goes. Solid chapter after a week break, and again, I have a very strong bias towards like addition of dragon in general, but on top of that, it's definitely around my alley. Like, this is a really cool dragon. It's not like this, like the design isn't like 10 out of 10. It looks really cool. I mean, for the most part, it is a T-Rex with like some extra horns and wings, but I mean, it works and it looks great. It looks really cool, and I want to know the more intimate kind of like details between this Edlin dude and the dragon. How does he control it? Like, how did he find it? Well, what exactly is it? Because when the guy says it's an ancient dragon, that at least tells me that it's more powerful than just like a run-of-the-mill dragon. We never saw a ton of dragons in Seven Deadly Sins. Like, I remember the tyrant dragons, but we didn't get a whole like I don't think we even really saw them outside of a couple scenes, now that I remember. So getting an actual big dragon like this is going to be really significant, not like significant in the total series wise, but it's significant at least enough that I think that this guy should be above those dragons and be like, kind of like how you'll have in a video game, you'll have mobs, like monsters, but then you have like a named mob, one with like a slightly more unique design. It's got its own name, it's bigger. Like, that's pretty much how I see this guy. Could be more, he could exceed my expectations, but we'll see for now. Either way, I'm just gonna hope that if it does get killed within the next few chapters, it has some really good panels. Like Nakaba makes sure to put in some really sick drawings of this dragon doing stuff before he kills it. And I'm hoping that if he does kill it, it's by somebody respectable that could run through this thing. Because unless like the cast members are gonna have some really massive team up and bring in some other characters, I would want it to have to be somebody that, like, if they just have somebody run through it, it would be somebody like Meliodas. And I think Meliodas would fit the most, because you could have Bon or King or somebody, but I think Meliodas being the Dragon Son of Wrath, it would make the most sense. But anyway, other than that, don't comment below. Thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. But than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.